Welcome to the Spiritual Roundtable, where we're about to break down, discuss, unpack, and challenge pretty much anything spiritual. Together, we're going to embark on a journey of unlocking spiritual potential through a ton of things like healing, balance, oneness, devil's advocate, and so much more. We always promise to give you what you need and only sometimes what you want. I'm your host, Erika M, child of balance, and here with me, my co-host, is Miss Erin M, Keys of Wisdom 369. Join us as we discuss and discern the difference between your intuition and the voice that's you. Learn the difference. Come join us. All right, so we got offered up a question, and we get it quite frequently. So we figure we just bring it to the spiritual roundtable, and we chit chat about it. So we got asked this question again, either yesterday or this morning, and it kind of sparked the we're doing this. We got asked on repeat, what is the difference between your intuition and your logic or your reasoning or your brain? And I think there's a lot of things that we can really simplistically separate some things right off the bat. So first of all, people who have an inner monologue, which is 90% of the world, they have an inner voice. You can talk to yourself in your head, your brain, form a thought, form a vision, form a fantasy, right? Like a lot of people use that when they're escaping, but we're gonna go there later. Like right off the bat, you can locate your inner voice. You can locate it. It is in a fixed position, and it does not change. We're going to go deeper into that, but just hold that thought for a second. Intuition is not your clair abilities. It's not. So when we start talking about intuition, it's like the soul's voice.
It's the know.
Your clair is, exactly, your knowing. Can knowing be one of the clairs? Yes. That's where the overlap is. That is the only place the overlap is. Your clair abilities is how you and your vessel, your energy perceives outside energy. Your intuitive knowing of your soul is not outside energy. It is yours. It is your soul. And that's a huge difference. So when you hear things with your clairaudience, when you see things, that's not your intuition. That's your abilities. And I know that that's sometimes hard for people to wrap their minds around because people use the word like intuitive, and we think that that's what that means. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Intuitive things are using our abilities, our 7 clairs, right? Yes. They are being sensitive.
Outside energy.
Exactly, to discern outside energy separate from ourselves, right? So we're using it as a tool, a technique, a skill that we have cultivated and learned in order to decipher incoming energy that is hitting our auric field, our vessel that we are coming into contact with. Your intuition, and the part that this kind of gets a little confusing for some people, it's you. It's your soul's voice. It's that quiet, consistent voice in the background. That bitch never changes.
Nope.
You never have to question it. You will know it when it hits you. A lot of times when your intuition hits you, people go, oh, I just feel like I have this gut feeling. Okay, great. But the actual gut feeling is your clairs pinging off of your soul's voice. There is a difference. Your intuition does not lie in your tummy. A lot of people will be like, it's in my belly button. It's not. It's not. So a lot of people will say, like, listen to your gut. You know, you'll know it. You'll feel it in your gut. Keep in mind, though, your gut is a physical body response. It is part of your clairs. You are having a physical vessel reaction of resonance with something that you are picking up on, right? So what ends up happening is that it'll happen in like a sequential order, right? So you might get that knowing, that soul's voice, and then your physical vessel will have a resonant frequency that you will physically feel. Some people get goosebumps. Some people get tummy pains or aches. Some people get cold chills. It's a physical vessel response to what your soul is stating. It's the energy coming off your soul. That's where a lot of people will get it, be like, yeah, it feels like it's in my gut. It's in the center of your being, and they're close in proximity. If you go off of a lot of cultural beliefs as to where the soul is located, it's in that center, it's in that chest, it's close to the heart, in between the heart and the tummy, right? So it's close to that area of being for a lot of cultural beliefs and for a lot of um, depictions of where the soul's location is. So a lot of that gets kind of twisted and turned, throughout history and adopted and, reinstated and made their own unique way. So a lot of times we pick up phrases like, you'll feel it in the gut, like, but
Like,
that's what they're saying.
I was gonna say, I mean, I kind of break it down simply sometimes, but I'm like, when people talk about that brain gut connection, when they talk about health, I always think of it that way with intuition. Because what do you say? You're like, man, my gut's just telling me this. I don't know how I know. I just know. So is like your humanness is like, my mind is telling me this, but I feel it in my gut. But like when you think of your energy centers, but what bridges that? Your heart space, your soul, like where all that's housed, right? That's that brain and that gut. Like it's literally all coming right here. So it's the ripple, like you said, it's that resonance that it's like it hits you here and then shoots up. And you're like, I don't know how I know, I just know. But like every fiber of my being, like that's how I always say, I'm like, every fiber of my being is telling me this.
Well, see, but that's the thing, though. And I think I'm so glad that you brought it back here because that's the thing. Our intuition is not confusing. You know what you know, and you know it like that. It
Yeah.
takes less than a second. You can blink like slower than your intuition pings you. It'll ping your energy, it'll ping your body, it'll ping your soul. Like the thing that we do as humans is we don't trust it. So then what do? We bring up something that resonates, what vibrates, what becomes shot out of the center of our being, and we rationalize it. We pull it all the way up to our highest within the vessel, you know, energy center, right? Up to the crown, up to the third eye, up to the right, up into the upper Dantian levels. Now we need to rationalize it because our humanness needs to have answers. So then now we're batting around our intuition. We confuse ourselves when we bat around our intuition, when we try to make sense of something in English that does not speak English.
But I
And
love that
there's
you,
a word.
sorry.
No,
I
you're good.
But I love that you brought this here too, because not only are you talking about the upper Dante, but then like, let's stop for a minute and take it back to masculine, feminine energy. So that intuition, right? What do we always think about when we hear the word intuition? Mother's intuition, that feminine intuition. It's the knowing. And then the knowing does what? Shoots it up, right? And then what's your masculine energy? Your logic, your reason, your structure, your this. So it's literally taking the knowing and then trying to take that feminine energy and then move it up here and make sense of it in that English logical kind of way, when again it's to trust the no, right? It's that inner world, not the making the logic in the outer world with the energy that you just got.
But do you know what that requires? To trust requires vulnerability. To be
Fact.
vulnerable requires you to be in your feminine energy. So
Yes.
that means when you can't quantify it, when you can't stick it in a scale, you can't weigh and you can't measure it, we need to what? Have trust and faith, which is hard for our masculine energy, Mr. Structure, Mr. Reasoning, Mr. Logic to do. And I'm not just talking about masculines as in divine masculines. I'm talking about the masculine energy in all of us, the
Correct.
masculine energy in my feminine ass, right? Like it's that type of a thing. But there's so much that goes into it. When things get confusing, people are like, well, I feel this way, but I don't know, I'm confused. No, you're not confused. Your first part of that statement was correct. You feel XYZ. I am aware of XYZ, right? It's only when we try to make sense of the things and try to judge ourselves, determine a decision, try to do all of these things with it that we confuse ourselves. Because chances are the reason our intuition is being pinged is not often that something aligns with us. It's actually that something doesn't,
Yep.
especially for people who are just beginning. A lot of times you won't get bothered unless something's wrong with your intuition, right? And I don't mean wrong as in broken. I mean unless something is like a red flag. Like,
Yeah,
whoop, flag in the play, something's wrong, or ooh. And a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I don't like that person, but I don't understand why I don't like that person." It's your intuition. Trust it. Trust it.
yes.
But then when we bring it up to the head and go, "Well, why don't I like them? They're a nice person. They're this." Now we're rationalizing our intuition. And that's where it gets confusing. Well, I don't know if I should be friends with them or if I shouldn't because they haven't really done anything. And blah, 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 blah. And you're like, calm down. What did your intuition tell you? Your intuition told you, not right now, bitch, sit down. That's all you
Exactly.
need to know.
And it's one of those things, it's like we talk about it all the time, but it's like sometimes you don't need to know the next. You just need to know that you have an awareness. So it's that ping that's like, something's off here. You're right. You might not be able to put your finger on it. You might be like, they've never done anything. Your energy is discerning something. Yours, not. It's discerning something outside of you. And then it's going, pay attention. That's literally what it is. Pay attention. You now have an awareness that something is off. Even if you can't, like you said, quantify it, label it, define it, put your finger on it, it doesn't matter. It is for your awareness. Sometimes the awareness is simply to sit back and observe. Observe someone's behavior, your interactions, your this, your that, because something got brought into your field for a reason. And you know this about me, when I started working really hard on my intuition or signs, messages, whatever you want to call things, right? If this is not going to affect me, I don't need an awareness of it. And when I say it that way, that includes people who are in my inner circle, who interact with me regularly, things like that. But if I don't need to know this because it is not going to affect me in some way, don't bring it in my awareness. Because then it just leads to all, like you said, all this upper Dantians needing to make logic and ration and reason. If it doesn't affect me, I don't need the awareness. Be that specific.
Well, and it's just like it's important, like just to go back for a second, like we talked about trust very briefly, right? As to why we would need to have trust and how trust can be vulnerable. And people are like, well, how do you learn to trust your intuition? Because you kind of have to do it a little bit backwards. You can't just, you can pretend to trust your intuition, but you're going to be torturing yourself on the inside mentally because you're going to be running through every reason why your intuition is full of shit. The people who trust their intuition are the people who have proven to themselves as many times as they needed to see it that their intuition was on point. So if you have a feeling about something, right? Just like boom. And I'm saying feeling lightly. I'm not talking about a physical body feeling. If you just have that intuitive eek about something, right? Allow it to prove itself correct.
Yes.
Allow it to prove itself correct. Pay
Yes.
attention, have an awareness, and let something play out. If you have the ability to quickly confirm it, then quickly confirm it. But don't sit there for 5 hours bouncing around. Allow them to bring the confirmation to you and then go, I actually knew this was coming. Or, I had a little bit of an inkling that something was going to turn or something was going to change or I was waiting. A lot of times I get people who tell me they feel like something's coming, but they don't know what it is. That's your intuition. I feel like something's coming. I just have this thing like I need to pay attention to this person, or I just feel like something's going to happen or something's going to, but that it's okay. It's okay. But then that's where you learn your trust. That's where you earn your trust is where you're like, okay, because then when you turn around and the very thing that you had a warning of occurs, congratulations. Like, congratulations. Because that's how you learn to trust it. The more times it is correct and you can prove it, one, you feel less crazy. So it puts
Mhm.
our logic to bed, right? It's hard to call something crazy if every time it comes up, it's correct. It's not
Correct.
crazy then, it's accurate. It could be scary because it's accurate, but it's no longer crazy, right? So we can stop with the self-deprecation. But then it's like on top of it, it's like, well, if it's now that it's correct, it's like great, because now you're gonna want to listen to it. Now you're gonna stop questioning it because you're gonna learn, you're gonna teach yourself you don't need to know. It'll tell you what you need to know. And that's the difference. And that's that allowance, the surrender, the not knowing and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable state of not knowing. You've had to quantify, you've had to guess, you've had to play all these things in your life. That's probably why you're here, and that's probably why you're in your masculine energy. You've been in fight or flight. You've had to read the room. You've had to anticipate. You've had to play chess or checkers with the people who are around you. It's like you've had to be 10 steps ahead. Your intuition does not need you to save it. It does not need you to be prepared like your vessel tries to prepare yourself for things. So your intuition is what's giving you the heads up. It has full awareness of everything else. Your intuition is what is connected to the all. It is your soul. It is your energy. It is fully aware. It is making your human ass aware.
Yes.
That's the difference. We think we need to come to the rescue of our intuition, and it's the opposite. Your intuition is your soul's connection, there to remind you and let you know that something else is afoot besides what you see with your two human eyes. Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website, www.childofbalance.com. We opened up a Get 5, Give 5 program, and it's all for referring friends and family. We know you guys do it. We want to say thank you because we are always seeing you send your trusted people our way. So visit the website and figure out how you can not only get $5 for doing it, but give $5 to your bestie. Visit www.childofbalance.com. There's no end date. We're just launching it now to say thank you. So if you want a one-stop shop for private spaces, spiritual guidance and assistance, mediumship, mentorship, private readings, shadow work assistance, it's all there. If you are looking for a free tree of knowledge where you can learn esoteric wisdoms, breath work, you can learn about yourself, cultures, spiritual hygiene, spiritual practices, spiritual traditions, and you can just learn about almost anything under the sun spiritual for 100% free, check out the website. And you should become a member. If you're not already a member, www.childofbalance.com. It's 100% free. It'll never cost you money. We would never charge you money. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com.
I'm going to go backwards to go forwards because I really liked what you said about, sometimes when you're starting off, you almost do it in reverse, right? And I'm going to give an example that literally has nothing to do with spirituality, but it will bring it full circle. Before I even, and like we say, when we start calling it our spiritual journey, we're labeling something that we have an awareness that we're doing, right? So when I say go backwards to go forwards, I have 3 kids, right? Well, I had 2 kids that had similar issues, not the same, 10 years apart. Right? My mother's intuition told me with my oldest when a doctor was like, we should try this medicine. My mother's intuition was like, I don't think so. Right? It just flat out was like, something's not right here. I had to prove it to myself though, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know enough about this, right? I'm going to go do a little bit of research. I didn't go too far down anything because back then I just, trusted the construct, whatever. But my intuition just wouldn't let it go. And I'm like, okay, I've weighed the pros and the cons. It doesn't seem like it's a good thing for us to try. You know what I'm saying? Flash forward 10 years, right? I'm in a very similar situation, different child, completely different set of circumstances. Same doctor, right? Stands there, looks me dead in my face, not remembering he had this conversation with me 10 years before with a different kid, and goes, well, this has a lot of really bad, side effects or potentials. And I'm like, uh-huh. And he's like, but, In this case, the pros outweigh the cons. We only have to do it once. Okay, I agree because our parameters are different, right? But I trusted my gut with no real proof that what I thought was correct, right? I did a little homework. I validated my intuition to a point where like you always say, I stood on business. Everybody thought I was nuts. I'm telling you, everybody. The doctors, the this, the that, they tried to convince me, no, we're not doing this. He's in a good place. We don't need to do this. But flash forward, so you mean to tell me 10 years later, the universe will give you a confirmation that your intuition was correct?
Well, and that's the thing is like I try to explain to people all the time that your clairs, your abilities are unique to you. They function uniquely to you. How your vessel interacts with outside energy is unique to you. And that's where people get confused. To go even further back, it's like if you can change the voice of your intuition, it is not your intuition. It
Correct.
is your ego. It is a voice of human design, of brain creation. It is not your intuition. Your intuition will be consistent. Its answer will not change regarding the situation, especially when no new information is presented. So if I sit here and I get people who tell me this all the time, like I sit here and sometimes I feel like I hear a yes. It's always a yes no. I don't know why, but it's always a yes no. It's a yes. And then it's like, but when I tune into it, right? AKA you're telling me when you focus with your human brain on it, is what you're saying. When I listen, especially with clairaudience, when I'm focusing on my ear and I'm trying to listen to that voice in the background, I get no. And then when I ask, is it a no? I hear a yes. And I'm like, is it a yes or is it a no? Is it a no? Now I'm confusing the shit out of myself. If that voice can change its answer like this, it's not your intuition. If the harder you focus on it, the answer changes, it's not your intuition. Let it go. If it is confusing you, it's not your intuition. Let it go. If it's going to bring confusion, trickery, and misunderstanding to your doorstep, let it go. Let it go until it comes back consistent. Let it go until it brings you a solid answer. Let it go until it hits you and you can't miss it. Because the more you spend time distracting yourself with your ego, and I know people get triggered with the word ego, but just the humanness, your human brain, the voice of self, right? If you don't like ego, the voice of self, the further and further you are getting from your soul's voice.
Yep.
So in order to hear our soul's voice, we create space. We don't create activity. You have to create space between you and your thoughts, between you and your active mind. You have to slip into a passive brain state, right? Intuition can happen during the day, it can happen any second of any day, but it is a split second when you're usually receiving information of one form or another. You're listening to someone talk. You are creating space between you and what is being said, where your intuition slides in. You meet somebody, you're waiting for them to say something, you're letting them finish a thought, right? You're absorbing what they say, you're creating space. And it's like I tell people all the time, if you need to differentiate for your clairs where your voice is, your inner head voice, your inner monologue, just say anything in your head. Big pineapple. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a massive sentence. You can use an affirmation. You can use one word. Just say it to locate your voice. Where is it? Is it up by the front of your head, up by your frontal lobe? Is it behind your eyes? Is it way in the back? Is it to the left? Is it to the right? Is it midway, quarter way, three-quarters way? Get as specific as you can because she'll never move. She
Nope.
will never move. He will never move. It'll be the same spot every single time. And I will tell you, try to say the same phrase and shout it to yourself. Shout in your head. The voice does not change. It
No.
cannot shout at you. Now do it again. Whisper the same phrase to yourself. Do not change the phrase. Whisper the same phrase to yourself as quietly as you can. You cannot whisper in your inner voice. The tone and the volume stays the same. So that means anything that comes flying out of left field that all of a sudden hits you in the front and your voice is the back is not you. Anything that yells at you, hey, not you.
Fact.
Anything that goes, chicken pox isn't you. It's just not you. So it's like, that's the thing. It's like, if you can locate what your voice sounds like, especially for my people who are like, I fall asleep and I hear sometimes someone will yell, hey at me, or I'll hear help, or I'll get a whisper. It's not you. It's outside energy. It's outside energy. Your voice can't do those things. And you can prove it to yourself by doing those exercises as many times as you want. You can even try to fuck your shit up. You can even try to move your voice around to do, like, you can't. You can't. And if you can, you need to see a doctor, because we might have some issues that we need to address. And that's okay. I'm just shitting with you. But for real, go ahead and try to mess your shit up. Try to confuse yourself for a second and realize what it feels like when it's you confusing you.
Correct.
Because a lot of people are afraid to go there. No, confuse yourself for a second. Do it as an exercise. Do it for a couple minutes and be like, ooh, that was wild. That's what that feels like. Learn that feeling so that when something else comes along, if it's confusing you that way, it's you. You confusing you. It's super simple, but we over complexify it. Some of the most intuitive people I've ever met don't know they're intuitive. They don't have a damn word for it.
Yep.
I'm getting goosebumps. They don't have a word for it. They don't have a label. They can't explain how they do it. I'm not teaching anybody anything. They don't play with cards. They don't believe. Some people don't even believe in this shit, right? They are the most intuitive motherfuckers I've met. They just go, oh, I
Mhm.
don't know why I said it. I just said it. I don't know why I did it. I just did it. I don't know why, but and I'll tell you what, they're never wrong. They're never wrong, but they
I
trust it.
I love that you said that because like I have a family member who will forever call me and go, I don't know why, but like I just feel this. I just feel this. And then I literally am the one who always brings it back to them, and I'm like, so you haven't been wrong yet. Like, at what point are you gonna stop calling me? And I mean this in a nice way. Like, I appreciate you're calling me, but you're calling me because you think if you call anybody else, they're gonna call you crazy. You think this, so like I'm your safe landing pad because I'm not gonna judge you. But like, miss, your intuition is one of the strongest ones I've ever seen. You just don't call it anything. You don't really believe in yourself very much, but I'm here to show you to date every single time you've been spot the fuck on.
Yep. And it's just that simple. Sometimes when and that's why we tell people, like, especially I know I tell people all the time, just let it be. Just
Yes.
allow it to exist. Allow it
Mhm.
to be. The more we try to give it a label, a name, give it processes, we are slowing it down, whether you realize it or not. Like,
Like you,
nobody had to tell you when you stub your toe, you cry. If
no.
I were to tell you when you stub your toe, I need you to pause and realize which toe is stubbed. I need you to sit down. I need you to grab your toe. I now need you to rock back and forth, not left to right. It must be back and forth. And you're allowed to cry for approximately 35 seconds. Go. That process for you is now way longer than it needs to be.
Correct.
It could have just been like, stub toe, cry, get it over with. Now it's stub toe, identify toe, look down, label it, crawl in fetal position, rock back and forth, not left to right, and cry for 35 seconds. Start the timer, John, go, right? And now it's so much. You do the same thing with your guys' abilities. You do
Yeah.
the same shit. I don't need to understand every single freaking thing. And
Nope.
if you do, I am so sorry, because whoever taught you that that was what you had to do to be okay, I would love to give you a different perspective,
Correct.
because it's just like you are your own hindrance at that point. The length at which you have to prepare yourself, even something as so simple as like leaving for the day. I need to sage myself. I need to put all my crystals on. I need to do a 15-minute meditation. I need to ask for protection. I need to put my shield up. I need to walk out. I need to now crisscross my door because I don't want anything being brought into my house. I now need to turn around no, 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 damn, whoa, wow. That's a lot of energy that we just put towards something that could have been like a second thought to us, like not even a second thought. That could have just been an automatic thing that we have prepped ourselves, prepared ourselves, taught ourselves to do, that anytime we leave that house, we are protected. It could be that simple. It is us that come complexifies everything and makes everything more dramatic, more crazy, because it's like one of those things. I think that's the ego self in us, right? The
Yes.
more we know, the more we can predict things. The more we can predict things, the more secure and safe we perceive ourselves to be, right? Less randomness coming at us. But then it's like on top of it, the more we do, sometimes the more accomplished we feel. So the more we have to do to be protected, are we really doing it because we need to do it, or are we doing it because it makes our ego feel good?
I love that too, because and we've said it in other ways pertaining to other subjects, but it's your ego having to do the things to prove to you that you believe in the power that you have. That's all it is. Because I'm sorry, but it is. Like
So it's
I
not
know
trust then. So it's
it's
not trust.
hold on. It not only is it trust, it's your safety, it's your security in your knowing, in your own energy, in your own power, in your own ability to do what you do. Because when I say this, it's like you can have good energetic practices, right? It shouldn't be so consuming that if you deviate from your to-do list of what I have to do to leave the house so I am protected, right? I must have this on this right hand, this on this left hand, this in my purse, this in my, you know what I'm saying? Like you're trying to convince yourself by doing all of these steps that you have to do these things outside of you to be protected in your own energy, for you to be safe, grounded, secure, confident, that you need all of these things outside of you. I mean, we've pertained it to like things like divination. They're added bonuses. You don't need them. It is your ego and your humanness. Because think about it, when you get all excited about your intuition and your gifts and your abilities, you want to test them out, right? You want to test them out. So you get the cards, you get the pendulums, you get the coins, you get whatever, right? To prove to yourself that you can do it. You're proving to yourself something. Why do you have to prove something that isn't meant to be proven? I mean, that's the way I want to say that. If it gets proven to you, that's an added bonus. If you can trust in yourself and what you get, because what are you doing? When you trust in your intuition, in your safety, in your security, in your energy, in what you get, in what you know, without other things outside of you having to prove it to you, you begin to move in an authentic, confident, assertive way where you are commanding your energy, your power, your presence, and you start moving in your life in a totally different way because you're not focused on everything outside of you to get you there. And that knowing is powerful, but it's not necessarily something that other people can confirm to you. Now, when I say that, yes, you can have messengers. Yes, you can have that. Those are just bonuses, friends. Like they're added bonuses. Because
Well,
really,
that's the difference. They're confirming what you already
you
know.
already know.
That's why it's a confirmation. They
Yes,
confirm what you already
you
know
already
to
know.
be true.
So think about that. I want everybody to think about what you just said. Thank you. How many people are like, and I mean this, whether it's us, whether it's people in our comments on videos and lives and sessions. Thank you for the confirmation.
Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website www.childofbalance.com. For those of you who truly appreciate handmade products, we have a handmade shop. Everything is made to order, blessed, saged, and sent out as quick as possible. We have anything from handmade sounds for meditation to chakra chain macrames to tree of life macrames with inlaid crystals to herbal blends like bath teas and dump and go specials to road opener mixes to kits and oils and so much more. For those of you who enjoy taking spiritual classes and courses but maybe can't fit it into your busy schedule, we have self-study courses, and everything can be found in the handmade shop. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com.
So you just said out loud, thank you for giving me something tangible in the physical world that I already told myself I knew. And the universe, God, spirit, creator, universe, your team, your guides, whatever, right? Proved it to you. They proved to you.
But you let them. You
Yeah,
didn't go
right.
searching for it. You
Nope.
let them bring it to you.
Yes.
That's the difference. If there is like this, and there's always like, I'm going to say this, but there's always a little bit of gray area with everything, right? So
Yeah.
just, know that. 9 out of 10, and I think I'm going to give the 1 out of 10 as the gray area. 9 out of 10, if it is urgent, if you feel like you need to do it, if there's a timeline to it, and it's probably your ego. It's probably the self voice who wants to stand up and do something. Not always is your intuition this urgent thing that just needs to. A lot of times that's the self voice who needs to feel like they have to do something. There's always a 1%, especially if it's like life or death or something like that, right? Like,
Yes. That's exactly, I know you could see my brain going over here like, but yeah, no, but I get what you're
yeah,
saying. There's the
yeah.
exception to everything. Obviously, the urgency when you're like, oh, and I say this, oh my God, I wake up and I'm like, I need to check on so and so because, like, I just have a feeling. What usually happens? What's your confirmation? Oh, so and so got sick. So and so went to the hospital.
Well,
So,
I mean, like urgent. Yeah, I'm talking like urgency. Like if I don't do it now, I'm gonna miss it.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No.
No, ego. Like, I'm talking about that type of
Yeah,
urgency to where you're like, "Oh my god, it's a now or never." How do I like chances are that's actually not your intuition. That's something that you're doing to yourself, putting yourself on a human scale, a human timeline, a human this. Because if your intuition is the voice of your soul, your
correct.
intuition is your soul, then that means that it's limitless. It keeps continuing. There's an inevitability. There's a, continuation that happens with the soul's evolution, the soul's growth, the soul's existence. So for your soul to be like, you better do it now or you're never going to be able to do it again, doesn't really make sense when we're talking about how the soul
Not
would be
even, no.
communicating.
Yeah, when you say it that way, no, absolutely not. 'Cause it's going to bring your intuition around and around and around and around. It's not going to stop.
Yeah.
It's not
And
going
that's
to
the
one time to
difference.
prove
Like,
to yourself that your intuition is on point. Like, no.
well, that's the thing is like, it's funny because it's like the human part of us, our humanness, is the one that needs proof.
Yes. And
Like it
if
is.
you wanna test that hypothesis, because I'm gonna say this, and I don't you better be honest with yourself, people. You better be honest with yourself. I'm gonna preface it with that. When you get your confirmation, right? When you get your confirmation, your humanness gets a little excited, right? Oh my gosh, I was right. Like, and I'm not even saying that in a bad way, but your humanness needed the confirmation because your soul's back there smirking like we told you so, right? Like we just
Yep.
throwing you a bone here because that's the part of you that gets excited. Your soul already told you. Your intuition already told you. Your knowing already told you. Your humanness gets excited because you got the physical confirmation.
And I'm gonna tell you, when your humanness is appeased so much and is proven right so much, things stop becoming exciting.
Correct.
In the way of like like full disclosure, there's nothing wrong with you. You have like deadified
Yeah.
your like, oh my
You're like,
God. And you
you're like desensitized to
thank
the
you. That's
light.
the word. I couldn't think of the word.
Deafified. I'm like, you're
Deadifying.
just
Like
desensitized to it. Like you are, and it's not even in a bad way. It's literally like your. So when I say this, your humanness, your ego can go. I appreciate the confirmation, but your soul's like, see, we didn't need it.
well, like, but that's the thing. You just move on with it. And I think that's a funny stage to be in is when you go from, oh, I had like, and I'll just pick something so stupid, like, right? Like, oh, I had a dream about a frog, right? But was that really like supposed to be a message about the meaning? Like when I looked it up, was that supposed to be a message, right? And then you walk out, I don't know, of your house and you see a frog on the ground, and you're like, that's my confirmation. Thank you, Source Spirit. Like, right? Like you get all excited about it. You're like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. This actually happened. Like, right? In the beginning. And then like You will literally be like, I know Mike 2 doors down is gonna die, but, praying for him, whatever, and then all of a sudden you, like, blink the next morning and he passed away in the middle of the night, right? And that years ago would have been like, "Ah, oh my god, I can't believe," like, you're doing, like, a little sad happy dance because you're not crazy and that thought was not your ego coming at you sideways, wishing people harm, right? Like, but then you wake up and you're like, "Oh, hmm, I had a feeling. That's sad. I'll send flowers," right? Like, you know what I mean? And you just move on with your day. It
Correct.
is wild. It is wild to get to, and that's such a dramatic example, but like, it is wild to just have
No,
that
it's
type of
not
a thing to
wild.
where it's like
It's a wild example
you
because
just accept it.
even if you take it to not Mike 2 doors down, right? When you can start to discern the energy, the soul, the this, the that, you can be in the same group of people. I even use it in like an intimate family situation. And like everybody else is still holding on to the hope, right? That like things are going to get better. And you can feel that energy of transition coming on. You can feel it happening. And it's like you just don't say anything because you're well aware that everybody else is not in the same space as you, right? So like you're making peace with your knowing with what you're being shown, given, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And then when it happens, it doesn't change that emotional response, but you're like, oh, well, there it is. Right. Like that's, I mean, honestly, that's like where I sit a lot. I'm like, and there it is. And not just in transition, but in a lot of things. Because it's like, I say this and I mean this to not sound egotistical at all, but like a lot of times you don't want to be right. Sometimes that's where I sit. Like
Very
I,
rarely,
I don't
unless
want to be
someone's
right.
paying me, you know what I mean? Unless someone's paying me to be accurate with something, like,
I don't.
I like, it usually the stuff that your intuition pings is not the rosy stuff.
No, it's not.
It's the, like, red flags, it's the, "That seems too good to be true," it's the, "Oop, but that don't make sense," it's the, "Oh, there's a transition coming," or, "Oh, I feel like someone's not medically okay or physically or mentally
Oh,
okay," like, right? Like, there's, like, it's it's more of, like, these different levels of pings to where you're just like, "I could went my whole life without knowing that," because you can't fix it, you can't change it, and it's just, like, sometimes it's that
it's
stuff that where we
heavy.
tell each other, like, if we d and, like, we say this all the time, dude, and you say it a lot as well, like, to where it's like, if it doesn't involve me, don't tell me,
Don't tell
because
me.
I got to the point where I'm like, I don't wanna know about every Tom, Dick, and Harry,
Mm-mm.
unless I'm gonna need to comfort somebody,
Yeah,
unless I'm gonna need to be prepared to be a
yeah,
shoulder, a
yeah,
crutch, a thing, like, just don't tell me, because
yeah.
I will, my humanness in the very beginning would hyperfixate on it.
Yes.
It would hyperfixate on it, and then I'd be like, "Oh, no," and then it would be like, "What do I have to do?" That's the ego. "What do I have to do?" You don't have to do anything.
No.
Sometimes you're given the awareness because the awareness is enough. You don't have to do anything with it, and I feel like sometimes that's where our ego, our logical gets in the way. Your intuition is not asking you how it feels about anything it gives you, and
No, it's
that's the
not.
difference. Your intuition's like, "And here's the facts, and here's the this, and here's the this, and that's it." And you gotta take it like that. Like, boom, this is what it is. It's written down, it's verbatim, it's not changing, right? Whatever's coming down the pipe is coming down the pipe, and that's it. You can choose if you beat yourself over the head with what came down the pipe, or if you're just gonna put it in your back pocket for later. I have learned, right earring, I have learned from the hard way just to put it in the damn pocket, because they gonna tell you with another thing down the pipe when to pull
Just
out the first thing.
it's like I know we've had this conversation 1,000 times personally, but I'm like, sometimes it is just the awareness. And do you know why? Because they're giving you the awareness, right? In this moment when it makes no sense to you, right? They're giving that to you because you're just supposed to trust it. You're just supposed to go bet, put a pin in it. I call it putting a pin in it. I'm like, just like the
Yep,
Bolt movie. We're going to put a pin in that, come back to it later, right? Like, but that's what we're doing. They brought something into your energetic awareness for you to trust. Because somewhere down the line, and this is the thing, you don't get to know the time frame. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It could be tomorrow, it could be 5 weeks, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, but I promise you, if you set boundaries, and so I'm going to say you set the boundary that if this does not affect me, then I don't need to have it in my awareness. You will freak yourself out. I'm going to tell you, you're going to do it because I did it to myself. When you're
Yep.
like, you look back in time, do it. Like literally do that. Look back in time. If you have that structure with your guides, your team, spirit, God, source, creator, and you go, look back 10 years. Look back sometime when you thought you was having the most random, and I mean I don't call it a one-sided conversation. This is an example like where somebody's just telling you all this stuff and you're just kind of standing there like fixing your face because you're like, why do I need to know any of this? Like this does not involve me. I can't for the love of all figure out why you're telling me all this. Almost where it's like oversharing over this. And I'm like, this is just really weird. And then you flash forward and it's like something that had to do with that situation literally came full circle in your life. Whether it was a person, whether you ended up having a similar experience with somebody who had that same kind of energy, and you were able to take what your intuition gave you in that moment, like when they're like, pay attention. And you're like, why do I need to know this? I don't know, but just pay attention, right? It's going
Mm-hmm.
to make
Yep.
sense later. I can't tell you. You can ask Erica. Yeah, I'm gonna use your government name today. Like how many times I've gone, dude. Like when I sit here, it mind boggles me. Where
Yep.
I'm like, now it all makes sense. I couldn't figure it out in that moment, and even then, I don't know that I was consciously trying to figure it out. And that's how I said I was just so dumbfounded. Where I'm like,
Yep.
why? I don't know you this well. Why are you telling me this? Like, I feel like this is something you share with like a bestie, and like, we're not that. So, not that we're not like acquaintances, but like, we're not besties. And so, why are you telling me this? But you know what I'm saying?
I do. I
And then I'm
do.
like,
But sometimes that's where we just
whoa.
like you have to get comfortable. And that's where we tell people like we tell you all the time, get comfortable with being uncomfortable
Yeah.
because you're gonna have to, because shit's gonna keep changing. You will get pings to shit and sometimes you may, I don't know, jump a timeline, ascend, elevate, whatever you want to call it, grow, heal, and maybe you're no longer around the person. So maybe what you were given is no longer pertinent because you changed your own path with your free will. Fantastic. But I'm gonna tell you right now, somehow, and this is yet to be like proven false, it gonna come back around. I don't know. I don't know. Like you could be where I have been removed out of spaces, and people just be like, "Oh, I just wanted to let you know. I don't know if you heard." I'm like, I ain't heard shit. I keep to myself. What do you mean? No, what have I heard?" And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh," and then spill the tea and be careful because tea stains. So be careful where we spilling it. Like, and all of a sudden you're like, "Well, that makes sense," but you keep that to yourself because your ego doesn't
Exactly.
need the win. But guess what? You get to trust yourself the more and more shit is brought to you if you allow it to be brought to you. And
Yeah.
the turnaround time will get faster and faster and faster. It may take a week, it may take 2 weeks in the beginning, it may take, X amount of days in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it'll turn into hours. You will get something and then it'll be like, well, bam. And I mean when you are not looking for it.
Facts.
And it's one of those things where it's just like you become so accustomed to it at that point that that is your journey. Your
Yeah.
journey is the surrender and allow state of existing as a human, knowing that you are more than the human vessel, you are in turn the soul. It's when we try to manhandle our abilities, our energy, our knowing, is when we get it all twisted. It kind of kinks to the east a little, you know? And it just seems like that's something that everybody always asks, and I feel like the more we ask about it, the further we get from it,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, because it's not, can I think about it? Can I call it up? It's about letting it find you.
Yes.
So in order to hear your soul, you have to kind of, I say, turn your brain off, but there's other podcasts where we talk about that stuff in depth, but like you have to create the space between you and your thoughts, between you and all the chaos, the unstructured in and out of transcentral station that is literally happening in your mind throughout the day. You have to be rooted in what is physically happening in the 3D world and not the escaping world you create for yourself to escape reality, because reality is tough. If you're telling yourself reality is tough, then the first place that you need to start is not your intuition. You need to go even further back and you need to figure out how we can change your perspective on the reason that you're here. Because if you believe that you are here for a reason, you have abilities, you whatever, you go around, you're a limitless being, this is not your first lifetime, whatever your belief system is, just that there's more to it than just this one life, right?
Yep.
Then you got to be okay with being here. Otherwise, everything else that has to flow through your vessel will be tainted. It will be biased. It will not come out right. It will be confusing because you haven't made peace with the fact that you're here. Like acceptance, awareness, and acceptance is always the first steps of everything. And it's just like, you're going to have to accept that this is where you're supposed to be right now. If you hear, if you blink in, if you breathe in, this is where you're supposed to be.
Yes.
So maybe just as we kind of wrap up here, just remind yourself that your intuition does not occur in your head. And I feel like that's important. If you have to think about it, if you are ushering up a thought, it's not your intuition. You can think about things afterwards, but you don't conjure up your intuition with your mind. Not in the human sense and not with your mind's eye either. Those are two different clairs. Those are two different things. So I think some of the confusion can just be cleared up with knowing that your intuition is not all 7 of your clairs. Your intuition is actually just one of them. And then everything else that follows is just your abilities. It's your energetic discernment with energy coming into contact with your vessel. Hope that helps. Alrighty. Thank you guys so much for listening in, tuning in. Thank you for joining us on the Spiritual Roundtable, where we just really get right down in it, no BS, and we just give you exactly what you need to hear. Not always what you want to hear, but definitely what you need to hear. Thank you for joining myself and Miss Keys of Wisdoms 369 for our talk today. And we hope you join us next week, where we have more straight talk coming right your way. And if you are not a member of the website, but you enjoy conversation like this and free knowledge and learning, we have a free tree of knowledge and you should check it out. Become a member. It's 100% free and you'll find it on www.childofbalance.com. Remember, as you go through this journey, please remember you are to feel your way through everything. Do not stop. Do not make yourself smaller. And always continue to be unapologetically and authentically you, because the world needs more of that.